I was going to do something else right now, but heard on the news, I'm sure many of you have already heard about it, that the Venezuelan president and his wife were taken, captured, and flown to the U.S., I'm assuming for trial and subsequent imprisonment. Now, I am a tad confused because, and this is why, I just want to tell it straight out. Venezuela may have had some gangs and some drug traffic within its boundaries, but to me, it's the neighboring country, Colombia, that's always been on the radar of most people and those who know about the subject. Mainly because that's where most of the cocaine is coming from. Colombia. And because of that, they traditionally have had cartels that at least have some finger in the government. I believe it was Pablo Escobar or somebody like that that essentially had pretty much free reign over the entire country for quite some time. And there's been others that have taken his place. But we have never thought of going into Colombia and taking their president. Now, other things they just, a litany of things to pop up. They have a vice president there in Venezuela. They have a vice president who, under normal circumstances, if the president is taken, then the vice president would assume the role. But our president has saw fit to say, we will control this country until such time as they figure out it can be left in other hands. And I don't know about you, but this is unsettling. We try to bash Russia on invading Ukraine. We try to bash Russia on invading Ukraine. But on the other hand, we have essentially have done something one more than Russia did, is take someone's head of state, take someone's leader, carry them to the United States to be tried under our laws. Now, I'm not saying that Maduro's election was without corruption. I'm sure it was. But do we, and maybe some people would say, yes, you should go ahead and take that particular president and take him out because he's corrupt. He's corrupt. He's providing instability. Plus, he is involved in drugs. Okay. Makes sense. But what if someone did that to the United States? Because there are plenty of things that any of our presidents could have been fingered for. Whether it's Donald Trump, Joseph Biden, before him Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Reagan, and on down the line. Does a country have a right to unilaterally take the leader of another country and arrest them? Now, understand this. There are certain countries that are under indictment. Well, they've been charged in world court. Among them is Vladimir Putin, which, as you notice, certain countries he will never go to, because if he goes there, they're obligated to arrest him. But he would never go there. Plus, Russia is, I think, at the very least, the third most powerful country in the world, arguably after China. And so the idea is maybe you don't want to mess with Russia because of what could happen. After all, they have more nuclear weapons than anybody else. They have more nuclear weapons than the United States. Nuclear weapons. Again, why am I going through all this? Because this is because, and again, remember, I'm speaking from a child of God's point of view. And if we say that we are a Christian country, that we're not like those other countries. We're Christian. But it seems to me we're doing the same thing that Russia's doing. We feel free to invade. We feel free to bomb. We feel free to otherwise usurp the authority of any country that does not seem to go by what we want. And it gets me back to when our president was talking about annexing Canada and taking Greenland. I don't know if this is a part of that strategy. I don't know. But, and then the other thing is, if you don't know a country, how can you run a country that's not yours? Remember, you are a leader of a country. You haven't annexed that country. You haven't really invaded that country. You haven't, the most you did was bomb some motorboats, and you took a tanker or two now, which of course are slow behemoths, but they can't protect anything. But you go into someone's land. Now, this is not like Osama bin Laden, which essentially was an outlaw in pretty much every country. He was hiding out in Afghanistan or Pakistan because he thought he was safe there. But he's not a head of state. He's not a head of state. He may have people under he may have had people under his command, but he wasn't a head of state. He didn't lead a country. This is something entirely different. And how are you going to keep their economy going? What do you plan? Do you know enough about that country? Venezuela. Do you know enough about that country to actually take control of that country and rule it until such time as you say someone else can take control of it? Which to me, you should have had somebody already in mind. If you're going to do this, already have somebody in mind to put there who is a Venezuelan to run this country. Of course, that then harkens back to U.S. imperialism, which is why all the third world countries, many of them, it took years, took decades, even centuries, for them to even warm up to the United States and say, okay, they are a land of freedom. They are a democracy. Okay, if they say they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Not anymore. To me, now the U.S. has become just as ruthless and meddling in other affairs as Russia with Ukraine and as China with Taiwan. We don't have the moral high ground anymore. Because we've already said that this is our neighborhood, meaning the U.S. that we're here to protect our neighborhood. Protect from who? Protect from us? That's what's happening. And the whole thing was started by two things. Number one, about unfair elections, which, okay, but if it's unfair elections, then then essentially maybe set up some new elections. Now that you captured this person, set up some new elections. But you have to have somebody running the country. You, Mr. President of the United States, cannot run another country. Your hands are full running this country. And there are those who don't agree with what you're saying about this country, your own country. Right or wrong, you have your hands full with this country. But now you're going to handle, even if it's a temporary basis, you're handling another. This is not a company. This is not a corporation that you take over. You can own and be head of several corporations, as long as they don't contradict each other's a business plan. But a country is a totally different thing. Now you're responsible for all the people in that country. For better or worse, Maduro was president of that country, and he was responsible. Now, Mr. President, United States, you're responsible. I don't care what you say. It's only for a little bit. No, you're responsible. You took the president away. You did not let the vice president come and essentially assume power. It's on your watch now. What are you going to do? Again, I'm not sure. I don't know. I just know that there's a precedent, that some things we shouldn't do as a precedent. Yes, Venezuela is involved in drug trade. I mean, that's why the thing was you're bombing the boats. Some people say they're drug runners, some people say they're not. But again, I had really thought that the Colombians were the one that had all the cartels. Because most of the cocaine that we're talking about is made in Colombia, in the Colombian jungles. So, is this going to have an effect on those that are taking drugs here? That's another thing. How are we dealing with the drugs here? Here, United States. The people here that are being killed daily by overdoses, by violence surrounding the drugs. What are we doing? Okay, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it right online. Maduro stole the election. Everyone knows it. His own people know it. But do not continue to put up the idea that Biden stole the election in 2020. You're only saying that because Trump is saying it, has been saying that for years. I mean, years. When he doesn't win, he says you stole it. It's only fair when he wins. But I thought you've seen that. In 2016, he probably would have said that was stolen, but he won. He was about to say 2024 was stolen, but he won. So he doesn't say much about it. He only says about the election he did not win. What happened was, my brother, he made a lot of people mad. For better or for worse, Trump made a lot of people mad because of his policies, because what happened during the COVID-19 thing. That his actions, for better or for worse, helped put us in a deeper hole than what we could have been. Because he did not act in time. Yes, he put on one of the greatest mobilization forces for trying to find the vaccine. That was great. But he took his time in dealing with the seriousness of it. And a lot of folks died because of it. People remembered that. And a lot of people turned against him. Those same people who then, when Biden came on, when prices went up, And he didn't really say much about it. He just said, oh, that's what bringing it. It's actually pretty good. He denied that there was a problem. People got mad. And they went back and voted for Trump. It's not stealing the election. But even if Maduro stole the election, let's say he stole the election, is there somebody in place? Could you have been working on putting somebody in place to take over the country of Venezuela instead of assuming the reins yourself? I mean, next thing you know, he might as well annex Venezuela. Don't think he should, because he has too many things going on here. But if we're going to discuss the validity of Maduro being arrested, we can definitely discuss it. But let's not go back to 2020 when there was too many courts that ruled decisively those who Trump had appointed as judges, not just those appointed by Obama and or Bush, but his own judges said wasn't a steal. In any case, the idea is this. What about today? What about Maduro? What is Maduro? I mean, how are you going to deal with Venezuela? That's the key that I am looking for right now. Now that we've taken their president and his wife, we've arrested him for whatever the charges are. Is it for drugs? Is it for because he stole the election? Remember, is it because of oil? Because remember, in the history of Venezuela, we had a lot of influence in getting oil out of Venezuela. Because the companies were all in Venezuela getting the oil. But then, I don't know if it was Maduro or the one before him, but the Venezuelan president nationalized everything inside Venezuela. They took over the oil from the companies. And maybe President Trump remembered that. And he wants to say, I want it back. Because remember, even when we went to invade Iraq, a lot of it was because we want the oil. We want the oil back under our control. Again, number one, what is the reason? Number two, who are you going to put there? Even if it's a puppet that answers to you, Donald Trump, who are you going to put there to take charge of the country? Because this is Venezuela. It's a sovereign nation. Okay, I'll put it this way. Let's say that it was right that Biden stole the election. Then would it have been okay then if another country came in and kidnapped our president? Would it have been okay? Would it have been okay because, hey, Biden stole the election, so let's go ahead and arrest Biden? Under that logic, should another country go and take our president? Again, what I'm saying here is that we are in danger of setting precedents. I don't know if we want to go down that road. Now, if we were really dealing with someone that God was leading, would he have done that particular thing? Or would he have worked the other countries around Venezuela to isolate that country so it couldn't make all of its money however he made the money? There are different ways of going through this. But taking another country's president, arresting them unilaterally. Now, I don't know any of the other countries in this world that told President Trump to go invade or go to capture the president of Venezuela. That's a pretty big thing. But then remember, one say, but didn't Biden arrest the president of Honduras? Good point. See, I'm going back now. Because remember that the Honduran president was just pardoned by President Trump, even though he was found guilty of funneling so many drugs and getting rich off of it. Again, these same drugs that we say are killing our children, killing our men, killing our women. So maybe there is precedent, but was there someone put in place of that president? Because I don't remember Biden ever saying that I'm going to take charge of Honduras for a while until things settle down. That's the next step. See, if you study U.S. imperialism, and we've done quite a bit of things, we have been involved in regime changes quite a bit. Some were to promote democracy instead of communism. Some, or at least ostensibly, maybe it didn't turn out that way, but maybe it was. Maybe to essentially because they had certain minerals that they were holding away from us, and they wanted a government that was much more pleasing to us. That's what propped up the Shah of Iran. And why the Iranian people were so mad, they end up putting an Ayatollah Khomeini that essentially shut down all their freedoms. But at the time, they were saying the U.S. is taking too much control. And this is the thought I'm trying to get to, my brother. Are we going down that road again? Whereas we are in the hands of all these other countries. We're dealing with their economies, their laws, their languages, whatever, we're involved in that. Because to be honest, every time we put our hands in another country, it's come back to bite us. And I just don't want that happening to this country again. Have we learned our lesson? Well, China's getting ready to invade Taiwan. Yes, they are. We have to watch about that too. But then we can't say, well, it's wrong because essentially you're invading a sovereign nation. Well, we just took the president of a sovereign nation. And we can't say that much about Russia. It said at least Russia did not kidnap or arrest Zelensky of the Ukraine. At least we can say that. He destroyed his country, yeah. Started a war, yeah. But my purpose in this particular frame is, what have we planned for this country? What are we planning to do? Are we planning to recapture the oil? Because remember, it's found in Venezuela. It was the companies from the U.S. and other areas of the world that were taking the oil out. And the president, and you can see the idea of many of the Venezuelan people. Isn't that oil coming from out of our country? Shouldn't we be taking care of our oil? So it can go back and forth. But treaties could have been done. But is this something that's going to lead to something else? That's also the thing I'm concerned about. You remember how at the beginning he was saying, and people say, oh, he was just playing. Maybe he was. But what he did with Venezuela, are you sure that he's not going to try to do the same thing to Mexico? Or to Canada? And he's not going to try to annex Greenland? Because there are minerals there that we need. Does he have the right to just go ahead and take them? These are things to think about. Maybe you may not agree with everything that is being said here, but it just wants you to think, what's going to happen? What is the long-term effects? Not what you're going to get in the next 2-3 months, but the long-term effects of what just happened. There's been too many things in history that have bit us because the long term wasn't considered. Just thinking. God bless you, my brother. I'm glad you responded.